if you're looking for an opinion for or against certain policies on viruses and vaccinations, then don't watch this video and please go away. But if you're part of that silent majority of people who are just trying to make sense of it all and just trying to stay sane with all this turmoil going on, then I have 5 ways for you to be happy in a polarized world. And it's all based on Taoist principle and the insights of the ancient Taoist Master Zhuangzi. And if he would live today and see so many people losing themselves in so many opinions and debates, I think he would just laugh his ass off. So let's dive in. Hi, I'm Alex, the Dutch Daoist, and I'm here to help you find more love, happiness and success in the most relaxed and natural way possible, which is what Taoism is all about. So a few months ago I did an interview with a very well-known Dutch DJ, Galen, about my new book about my spiritual awakening experiences. And many people listened to our conversation or saw the video. Now, we had a lot of fun, but at the end of the interview, after like an hour and a half, he asked me this question: Alex, are you vaccinated? And I just know whatever answer I'm going to give, I'm going to have a lot of negative comments, which is exactly what happened. And it still caught me by surprise a little bit. It's like, really? You know, you can listen to a conversation for an hour and a half about spirituality, where both me and Gil, we were completely open and vulnerable and honest. And you say something about vaccines and it's like, okay, that's it. That guy is the Antichrist. And you know, it's just mind-boggling to me. And I know most people, they just enjoy the conversation because I get a lot of emails from people saying it changed their life. So I know there's a silent majority of people just like me and you, trying to find a sane perspective in a polarized time. And there's no one better to listen to on this subject than Zhuangzi, or Zhuangzi, or whatever you want to call him. So Zhuangzi, he lived in the Warring States period in China a long time ago, in a period full of devastating violence and upheaval, just like now. And Zhuangzi was considered an eccentric guy who didn't care for things that other people care for, like fame and money. And he'd just be wandering around. And when they saw how wise he was, they even asked him to become Prime Minister. But Zhuangzi says, the wise man knows that it's better to sit on the banks of a remote mountain stream than to be the emperor of the whole world. Which, you know, it tells you how Taoists think about power and politics. And Zhuangzi also said, running around and accusing other people is not as good as having a good laugh. And having a good laugh is not nearly as good as just going with the flow of nature, or the Tao. So Zhuangzi cared about one thing, and that was happiness and living a carefree life. And interestingly enough, he talks a lot about the stupidity of opinions and human perspective. He says all perspective is false by nature, because a little morning fly who lives only one day would consider itself very old when the evening arrives, right? But from my perspective, he's just one day old. But if I know someone who is 200 years old, I would consider him very old. But from the perspective of a tree that's thousands of years old, he's just like the morning fly. So perspective is just in the mind, and it is useless. You can think that a certain girl, for instance, is the most beautiful girl in the world. But from the perspective of a fish, she's pretty ugly. She doesn't turn him on at all. So what's the value of your opinion? It's nothing. And that's a very refreshing take on something that society says we should all have, is opinions about everything. On television and on social media, there's so many people making a living just by having opinions.
Well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Right. When you're free of opinions, you can just go with the flow of life and nature. You will feel completely liberated. But how do you do that? Well, first of all, see the illusions of your own perspective. It will give you a lot of peace. I'm not saying everything is relative. I'm not saying facts are relative. I'm saying your opinion is relative. It's in the mind. Yeah, but Alex, when I have to make a decision, I need an opinion. Well, I don't think an opinion is going to help you. It just blocks real insight. And if you have to base your decision on an opinion anyway without having all the facts, which sometimes we have to do, well, then realize that it's not a perfect situation. And you can always change your opinion because your perspective is automatically flawed. And it's okay. Not knowing is perfectly okay. But what people then do is once they choose an opinion, they choose a side, they choose a perspective, and they stop seeing the bigger picture here. And that's when they stop listening to other people and even stop seeing other people as human beings because they don't agree with them. And that's because we find it so difficult to live with uncertainty. We have this deep need to be certain, even if it means ignoring facts that don't support your opinion. And that's where it gets nasty sometimes, right? So if your perspective is flawed, how do you deal with that? Well, ask yourself, where is your perspective coming from? It's from your head. That's the place where we have opinions and fantasies and what my guru calls delusion, illusion, error. Die. It's all in your head. So if you sink down into your heart, then you get emotions. It's good to connect to emotions, but it's better, even better, to sink down even deeper into your belly and feel the power that resides there. Connect to yourself. Deep inside your body, you're just you, here and now. And it's really quiet there. People always talk about emptying your head. Well, the fastest way to do that is sink into your belly. Just leave the premises up here and it will be empty all by itself. You just sink into your belly, into your core. How do you do that? It's just start by breathing from your belly and imagine you have a warm ball of chi, energy, in your belly. And with every breath it expands and it condenses. And it expands and it condenses. And when you start doing that, it's not imagination anymore. You actually create a ball of chi in your belly. Depends on how much energetic blocks you have in your body, but there's ways to unblock those and get the chi moving. But basically, you just focus in your belly in what we call the lower tanchen, just 2 fingers below the navel, deep inside. Just having the intention to do that can be a game changer for you already. And there's no chattering left in your head. And what happens then is less thoughts, less opinions, less fear. And you connect to who you really are. And what happens then? Well, Zhuangzi talks about a famous man who was very good at debating others. So he would do that all day long. And then one day, after debating other people again, he just sits down beneath a tree and he breathes and he realizes, I can just stop doing this. Because if I think I have to convince other people with my words, then I've already lost. That's a great insight. So you can feel that deeply inside. And if you connect to your body and sink into your belly, you will get that perspective. So when you're connected to yourself as a human being, you start to see the other one as human beings as well. You stop projecting these false images on other people. It's what we do, right? We label other people as fast as we can so we don't have to actually connect to them and have all these difficult insights that can crush our worldview. We don't want that because it doesn't feel safe, which makes sense. You know, it's a completely understandable mechanism if you want to survive in this overload of information. But that mechanism is supposed to help you feel more peace. And if it doesn't, well, you have to start seeing things the way they really are and start connecting to people and start seeing them as valuable. Human beings who deserve their own perspective. It's a very important step, you know. That's why Zhuangzi says all things in nature are unique and each has its own particular value. And he talks about the ancient times when there were 10 suns in the heavens and they were all shining brightly together without blocking each other's sunlight. And that's what we can do, just shine without blocking anyone else's light. Now, what will help you a lot to feel balance even more and become much more stable in this world full of turmoil is you can ground yourself. And that's a very important thing in the Taoist practice. If you start working with energy, especially high voltage energy like sexual energy, then you need good grounding. And most people in the West, not grounded. And what happens is that the stress and the thoughts and the negative energy just keep bouncing around in your head because your body cannot release it into the ground, which is what should happen, which is what animals do, like dogs after a fight, or even ducks. They just shake it off and release that stress very quickly. For human beings, the energy channels in your body are designed in such a way that energy is supposed to flow through it from your head to toes. So the stress will be flowing into the earth automatically. And then when you're connected to the earth, the fresh energy of the earth will nurture your system. You don't just get energy from the sun and the air and food or drinking coffee. The earth feeds your body as well. But we are behind our laptops all day and in our heads. So these energy channels with most people, they're just blocked. And the energy just keeps bouncing around in your system. And that's why you can't sleep at night. You can't relax, can't stop your thoughts and fears and emotions. And you start identifying with all kinds of opinions about everything. And it's just unproductive. So ground yourself. You can take my free grounding class and there will be a link somewhere below this video. Next step, when you start connecting to the earth, you basically start connecting to nature and the universe. You start feeling the oneness with everything. And believe me, that's a tangible feeling. That perspective is huge. It's the universe, it's everything. And once you've tasted that universal perspective and connect to what we call the Tao, how can you be so upset by one person's opinion? How can you even take your own opinion seriously? I mean, seriously. We live in a world of yin and yang, and these opposite forces, they complement each other. You can't play a football game, without an opponent. But on a deeper level, it's all one. Yin and yang are connected and they are one. So instead of taking sides, you can just ride the waves of energy. Zhuangzi says that a wise man or woman is like an expert swimmer who can survive a very powerful torrent of water by just swimming with it. And I think the torrent at this moment in history, if you want to go with that flow, the flow is going inwards. It's deep inside yourself. If you do that, you're going with the flow, and that's a unique thing that's happening at this very unique point in history. And if you move more inward, then you will be way more happy. So enjoy it. And if you like to see more videos like this, then like and subscribe.